I made a couple swings and I hit this track. I'm like, boy, that ain't bad. That's a lot better than what we were on. So it happened to go parallel with Dad. So I took it. Of course, we talk on the radios, and I'm going down this beaten down deer trail, and there's these two maples that was, it had to have been 24, 22 inches apart, and all the deer going through it, and this buck goes around it. I'm like, whew.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he did it about 2-3 times. So I followed it up parallel with him, and I'm up on this mountain, and I'm going to go over this cliff, and I'm going to lose radio with Dad. So I got him on the radio, and he ended up meeting me on the top.
I boogied over there.
Right. We went, maybe half mile apart.
Yep.
Got together on the top of the mountain, and we scaled down the cliffs, and it's like this big bowl. It was a big area, but it was like a bowl.
It was, this like flat or small hardwood.
Right.
And
fairly open. And it was like his living room. He was there for days. His buck bed was everywhere, rubs everywhere, ponds everywhere, doe tracks everywhere. I mean, they were living right there.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails. Sitting down today with the Potters.
Hi, how's it going?
Good day.
What's both your names? You're Jake?
Yeah, I'm Jake.
Jake and Jeff, yeah.
And Jeff Potter, and we're here in what a beautiful setting. We're in the smokehouse. I got cocker box up behind me here. Some dandies. We're going to tell those stories, I hope.
Yep.
Looking out. I think that brown one out there is mine, isn't it? Looking at some cows.
Those are the cow-calf fairs out there.
I'm doing carnivore diet.
Yep.
So I called you guys right up and said, hey, I need a whole cow.
That's right.
So we got one. When are you guys cutting them up? When you slaughter them?
Starting January.
January? Cool.
Yep.
I'll make sure to have my hunger ready.
Yeah, you'll be eating good.
To be eating good.
Yeah.
So we're in Lyndonville. I just went and saw Kevin. You guys know Kevin?
Yep, Kevin's good.
Grabbed a couple of pump guns, and boy, he's got quite the operation going up there.
He's in the sticks, that's for sure.
Yeah. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves?
Well, I'm Jake. And I work here farming and doing carpentry. And I got 2 young girls. One's almost 4 and the other one's 2. And Halloween.
Nice.
Yep.
And I'm Jake's dad, Jeff. I moved over to Vermont about 25 years ago. And originally from southern New Hampshire and hunted central New Hampshire, like Hooksett area and Bear Brook and all that area there for years and years and years before coming up here.
And what made you make that move?
It got too busy.
Yeah.
In southern New Hampshire, for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Traffic and everything else. We moved up just after 9/11. That had part of it. Some of what they had to do with it, too.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And what line of work were you in down there?
I was doing carpentry then also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you've carved out a really good, this place looks like paradise, quite frankly.
Thanks.
It's gorgeous. This setting, if people could be here, you would... people would pay money to sit here, and tell you that. This is absolutely stunning.
For sure.
So, yeah, we met in the woods.
That's right.
That's right.
That's how we met each other.
It was very cordial.
It was cordial. Yeah. We were, I think, and you guys can probably remember better than me, but I think you had pulled over looking at a track, or one of us, I think you had pulled over.
I was just ahead of you. We were 3 trucks in line.
Yeah. Yeah, and you hopped out to look at the track. I hopped out, and I'm like, you guys going to take it? And you're like, yeah, I think we are.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, well, good luck. And then I drove, I don't know, probably another mile and a half up the road, maybe even further, and another older buck. You were on the fresher one.
Yeah.
And I jumped on it and chased them all around the hill, and halfway up the hill, I ran into you 2 again.
That's right, the 2 bucks crossed.
Yeah.
And, you kind of ran us down to make sure you were on the one that you had. And
Right.
I wanted
to make sure I talked to you because I wanted to look at the track because I'm like, I don't want to spend all day tracking the buck there on because I knew I was several hours behind mine. I just wanted to get on something.
Right.
And then I went over and looked at your track. I'm like, okay, that's definitely not the same buck. Yours is newer and a little better, so good luck.
In the area that we were hunting is notorious for zombie bucks.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a very poor record there.
Yeah. I chased that one all day. He ended up on that next...
On the next road.
Yeah. Well, kind of in that other area.
Yep.
And ironically, I was staying at a camp, and Joey Davis was staying just a couple camps down. And I was like, man, somebody cut me off the other day on the track I was on. I said, Dad, lacrosse is on. I told him where I was hunting. He goes, shot at him twice. Such a small world.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You think you're alone and you're not.
And in that area, we've gone up there on snow on opening day and not seen anybody.
Right.
Yep. It was funny. Last year I hunted in that area, not that area, but up in that chunk. And I don't know if you listened to the podcast or saw my video there, but I bet you I did 40, 50 miles of road work.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw another truck.
Yeah.
First tracks.
We've done that time and time again.
It's really, I feel like it's slowing down up there. Obviously, I don't think the herd is very great.
Right.
So there's a few contributing factors, but.
I started hunting up there in my 20s.
Yeah.
And something that I learned from all your videos, like I never follow up on a buck, the same buck on the following day. I never did that at all. We check tracks, and I'd always have a fresh buck track by 8:30.
Yep.
So I never cared about what happened yesterday.
Right.
I was just looking for a fresh one. I did that for years and years and years.
Right.
But now it's getting slim pickings that you probably should go back to working on what you were working on yesterday.
Yeah, I'll do it if I find. I shot a drop tine buck up there, and I got a good look at him, and he had a good track, and I was like, that's the buck I want to kill. Like he was, he's a dandy, and that's when I'll do it, when I kind of get locked in.
Yeah.
But if it's a coin flip buck, then I probably won't.
Yep.
But to your point, in these, in this day and age, it's not like you can just go find what you're looking for every day, so you kind of jump back on them.
Right. I mean, we would get on bucks and they just go for miles, would never stop to piss, lay down, just never stop.
Never stop.
Right.
Do the same thing all over again, next day on a different deer.
Right.
Happen all the time.
Never do a loop.
I mean, like 19 times out of 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a stretch of time, like November 5th, 6th, depending on when the snow comes, because a lot of times we don't have snow that early, to like that November 20th range where they are just going.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can fly. You
Yep.
ain't going to catch them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
They got to get with a doe or lay down or something.
Right.
I mean, we lost several to Canada. Go right to the
Yep.
border.
Go right to the border. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's common up there.
Right.
But that's cool. So looking at some nice bone on the wall, you guys do pretty good. You guys killed some bucks. Didn't you shoot a good one last year, Jeff?
I shot an okay one. That one.
This one?
There,
Yeah, it's a nice-
Muzzleloader in
it's a nice
Vermont.
deer.
Was it 3 days before the end of the season?
Yeah, that was on Friday.
It's a nice 9-pointer.
And that's really the only opportunity that I had all year.
Yeah, you passed up those spike horns. That was it.
Yeah, I passed up some small stuff, but for anything decent.
Right.
We hunted Maine for a week, and we hunted pretty hard. And we got on. Jake had got his buck that morning
Thanksgiving.
on Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
And we got a track at 1 or 2 fresh track coming right across, and we got on it, and we had jumped him and pitched it 350 yards. And he jumped out of his bed and took off through the hardwood. Neither one of us could see any friggin' horns on him.
No kidding.
And that's the only opportunities I had all year.
And what'd you kill?
This one here.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's a hammer.
Yeah.
That was Maine?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you weigh?
Which we haven't gone to Maine before, so I was pretty pleased for the first trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, 175.
Nice buck.
Yeah, fully dressed. I was pretty happy with it. We were just getting up early, day after day, checking tracks in the dark. We're going down some tote road, choppings left and right, breaking daylight, just about getting legal, and his track kept going across the road. And it wasn't quite big enough. It was fresh, but I'd guess like 160, not really what I was looking for going to Maine. But he just kept going across the road. There was doe tracks. I was like, well, better get out and just cruise down this tote road, keep your eyes peeled. So we're just walking down, checking, peeking here, peeking there, and there he was standing there with a doe broadside. Wasn't no great story or nothing, but
yeah,
that's how I got him.
You guys double team a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you killed some double teaming?
Yeah, that buck there.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's hear it, because that's a dandy.
That's a good story.
I'm not going to tell you guys how big it is, so you're going to have to listen to the story, but I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to tell you something. It's not small.
Which is funny because when he shot it, he told me it wasn't big, which he didn't know.
Oh.
But yeah, he told me it was like,
That's New Hampshire.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said it was maybe a 6-pointer.
Yeah.
And well, anyways, we took him off a track off the pavement, and
Oh, no kidding.
and it wasn't a great track, but I mean, we needed to do something. We hate truck time.
Yeah.
So
Despise it.
right. So anyways, they're like, yep, that's a buck. So we took it, and it was going through little openings, through blowdowns. I mean, it was not impressive at all. So Dad said he'd continue on it, and I'll just keep swinging. Maybe I'll pick up something else. Maybe I'll swing on this buck here. It seemed pretty fresh, weren't it? Yeah, I can't remember, but and I made a couple swings, and I hit this track. I'm like, boy, that ain't bad. That's a lot better than what we were on. So it happened to go parallel with Dad, so I took it. Of course, we talk on the radios, and I'm going down this beaten down deer trail, and there's these two maples that was, it had to have been 24, 22 inches apart, and all the deer going through it, and this buck goes around it. I'm like, whew.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did it about 2-3 times. So I followed it up parallel with him, and I'm up on this mountain, and I'm going to go over this cliff, and I'm going to lose radio with Dad. So I got him on the radio, and he ended up meeting me on the top.
I boogied over there.
Right. We went, maybe half mile apart.
Yep.
Got together on the top of the mountain, and we scaled down the cliffs, and it's like this big bowl. It was a big area, but it was like a bowl.
It was, this like flat or small hardwood.
Right.
And
fairly open. And it was like his living room. He was there for days. His buck bed was everywhere, rubs everywhere, ponds everywhere, doe tracks everywhere. I mean, they were living right there. But so we just kept sneaking through, and
we kind of spread out. You went right, I went left.
Right.
Just kind of sneaking along.
I mean, the tracks are so thick, you ain't gonna track them through there. I mean, you gotta check the outside. So double teaming, you're not wasting time. Dad can take one side, I can take the other. And then when we get one coming out, that's him, I can radio up Dad and say, hey, I think I got him leaving here.
Right.
So we do that quite often.
That's gotta save some time.
Oh, it saves tons of time.
How many times are you by yourself and you're like, God, I just wish I could. I gotta check it all because I gotta make sure I'm on the right one.
Right. Never mind if you had a good sized doe with it. If you had marginal in snow, and I mean, you can just one guy can take the other track. Makes things simple.
Yeah.
So I'm on the left side of this bowl, and I look out the far left, and there's kind of a flat of some choppings. And out there about 150 yards away, there's a doe feeding there.
Yeah.
Then she kept looking to her right, even further away from me.
This is pretty early in the morning, like 8:30, 9.
Something like that. I can't remember. But I figured she probably was checking on a fawn there. So anyways, the snow was deep. I sat down, and I'm watching her, and Jake came along. So we're sitting there together, and I guess we decided to do a few grunts.
Right. We thought he could be living right in there.
It wasn't going to do any harm. So right where she had been looking down, this buck comes walking straight up
after 2-3 grunts.
And if you look at the side profile of that deer, I thought it was a small 6-pointer. And where it stopped, there was a tree in front of the vitals. I said, I'm not going to shoot a 6-pointer through the guts up here. I mean, don't make any sense. So anyways, all his attention was directed towards that doe. Wasn't interested in us or where the grunt was coming from. Was just concentrated on where that doe is that we couldn't even see anymore. And it went forward and got into a clump, an island in that.
Right. He's just gone.
We lost track of him.
I mean, some time went by too, 5-10 minutes.
Oh, easily. And I remember just once looking in that clump, and I could see his face looking right at me.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't even see it. And
you could just see the bridge of his nose.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And this is probably, 125, 150 yards probably.
Oh, yeah, it was 150 yards anyhow.
Right.
Well, anyways, after quite a while, he comes out of that island.
Well, no.
What happened?
We were going to move because nothing was going on. I said, well, why don't we lay on this grunt tube as hard as you can blow? So you laid on that grunt tube, and that drawed him out. And he was standing there that whole time.
Yeah, he was standing that whole time.
Right.
And he came out and angled away.
Yeah.
And when he turned and angled away, I could see the horns down his back. This guy had some horns on him. So
you said to me, you're like, I mean, I was the one on the track originally, so you felt a little obligated, but you were like, I have a shot. And I'm like, well, take it. That's all. What are we doing here?
So he was angled away, and I think I shot 2 quick ones at him.
Yeah.
And he went behind a Christmas tree and
Right.
came out the other side, and I think we both shot.
Yeah, we both shot, and he dropped right there.
And that first shot, I'd hit him in the hip and went down the whole side of him. And that was it. So we went up there. We had no idea that it had the horns on him that he did.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a giant 140 something.
It measured 145 and some change. Yeah, and it weighed 180, but
Mid 180s.
it was rutted out. I mean, the spine was just sticking right out of him.
Yeah, the spine was sticking right out of him.
So,
Yeah.
but that it was 2.5 mile drag out of there.
Yep.
Yeah, weren't bad. Deep snow.
Yep.
Probably just above your
What a
knee.
moment. What a moment it must have been with the two of you. Like, it's part of the reason I wanted to have you guys on. Obviously, I've ran into you, and
Yeah.
we have some connections. And
Yep.
But it's because I hunt with my dad a lot.
Yeah.
And that connection, those moments,
Right.
you know, people that haven't experienced it with their father in that moment, they're not going to understand.
Right.
But the people that have,
Right.
they're going to understand. And
For sure.
there's nothing like it. I shouldn't say never. Me and my dad I've never killed a buck like that close to my father. I would love to. The one a couple years ago that I shot at a bunch of times, he was with me for a lot of it.
Yep.
He'd got it leaking, and you know, a lot of people don't understand that it's not about who tags the deer.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
Like-
Dad was pretty sick that he had shot the buck and was wishing I shot it. And I'm like, Dad, I'm like, where?
it doesn't. You know, you got to keep hunting,
Right.
So it's a win-win.
Well, later it was 3 days after.
3 days after.
It was morning. It was -10, and I ended up shooting a 7-pointer. That was like 155 or something.
Yeah.
But it was on the last day.
It was on the same trip.
we were headed home the next day, so I had no hard feelings there.
That's awesome when you have two in the back of the
and
room.
we happened to be together on that as well.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So
Jake and I are unique because we work every day together. So we're doing the farming and the carpentry, and when you spend that much time together, I mean, handling cows, like loading cows, I mean, that can be a real show. But with him and I, we do it freaking easy. It's just like having your twin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what the other one's going to do, what the other one's thinking.
Right.
Even when you're doing business with someone, you already know what he's thinking before.
I worked with a friend when I was telling you guys before we started recording. When I did the ITAD, I worked with a buddy, Ryan, and people would go tuna fishing with us, and like, you guys don't even speak. You just like look at each other and grunt, and it means something apparently. Because Ryan will just like give me a look, and I mean, I know that means go get him this, that, and this because he's going to rig a stick bait and do this, but
right.
so I can relate.
I mean, if the conditions allow it, I truly think hunting, tag teaming together with the right guy is better than being alone because you can save so much time. But you got to be the same pace. You got to hunt the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that go
Because
into
we're
it.
efficient. We don't talk at all,
Right.
usually when we're talking.
it's all that
track.
nonverbal. Yeah.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, I respect you guys for doing the camera work that you do and everything. I would no way have the patience for it at all.
It's a little bit of work. It's just so fun to look back on.
Oh, I
Like
agree.
I went back and forth whether to do it or not do it. And again, if you guys listening to this stuff, I have my why. And my why is access and land and letting people know that there's another way to hunt. You don't have to put out 50 cell phone cameras and kind of hunt the modern way. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Sure.
There's another way to hunt, and I think we have to capture it. We have to champion it. We have to sensationalize it so that these younger generations understand that, you don't have to have a lease.
Right.
And quite frankly, I hope that we don't go down that path of having to lease,
Right.
I agree.
I grew up with it as a tradition and not everybody else has, right? So those people, I want them to just know that there's another way to do it. That it doesn't have to be necessarily what you always see on YouTube. So we're bringing something different to the the forefront and
Right.
trying to do it with some ethics and high level of
Right.
effort. And
I mean,
it is a lot of work. It's a lot of fun.
we like tracking bucks, no doubt. I mean, when the weather allows it, but I got the 4-year-old or almost 4. I mean, we do a food plot right here behind the house. I mean, she's involved with planning it. I mean, I'm teaching her, if you work hard now, you can get a reward later on with a quality food plot, and maybe you can shoot a deer.
Yep.
Of course, October is pretty busy trying to get the farm settled for deer season. But, I can run out my food plot, shoot a doe, or maybe, if I'm lucky, get a nice buck. I can go back to the house, get Emily, we can follow the blood trail. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to that, but it's not tracking deer.
Right.
It's another method.
Right, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just an option. I just think a lot of people don't even know that, like, how we hunt is a thing.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily specifically talking about tracking. I'm talking about big woods, taking your gun and just going for a walk, disappearing into the mountains,
Right.
and just what all that encompasses,
Right.
and the joy of the journey.
Right.
I feel like our generation and social media, it becomes more about, how big was the buck? I mean,
Right.
we all want to shoot a big buck,
I mean,
but it's the story that goes with it.
right. I'm pretty glad. I mean, you didn't ask, how many 200-pound bucks you shot today, because we're not here to talk about numbers or records or anything. I mean,
Nope.
we're here to enjoy hunting.
And I think a lot of guys get wrapped up in that. And I think a lot of guys tell some tales.
Sure.
It's like your fish,
Sure.
It was this big.
Right.
They're all 200 pounds these days,
Right.
which is fine,
Yep.
to each their own. But,
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm excited to have you guys on for that reason. I immediate connection as soon as I saw the way you guys are. I mean, you guys walked off up the thing. I'm going, that's really cool. Like, go get them. I was waiting to hear a shot.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, some good hunting up there. I like hunting up there. I just love the woods.
Yep, same here.
Right.
Yep.
See, every year, I swear I shot my New Hampshire deer last year, and I was kind of a little grumpy going there. I kind of let my dad pick some, because he's my buddy.
Yeah.
We go hunting together, and it was the 40th year they'd gone up there. So I was like, you know what? Let's go up there for a couple days, and I'm glad we did, because it wasn't, again, not about the size of the deer. It wasn't the biggest buck in the woods, but what a freaking fun hunt.
Right. I mean, it was only last year we went up there. We didn't shoot the buck, but we had snow with it 3-4 inches probably.
Yeah.
Took him off the logging road, had to cross the river with him, and he'd get up on this kind of like a humpback mountain, and there was this cove that he was living in, and I didn't know it at the time, but his tracks brought us right to it. Well, I jumped him on top of the mountain, and I'd kept running him around. It's a pretty big area, and he was just circling me halfway down the mountain, just waiting for him to come off.
There's a thick spruces up there.
Right.
Wicked thick.
Rocky. I mean, there's parts that there's no way you could even go
It
up.
wasn't nice.
Right. So,
That's why you left him up there.
yeah, right.
But I was doing more distance than he was, trying to run around below him. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's
I
work.
don't go way around. He was on the top.
It's work. And we went back even the second day, and he was right there, and we never did connect with him. I saw his ass once when he was bedded right on top of the mountain, just a small flat, and I know he's up there, and I'm sneaking, and I'm like, I know he's here. And I peek over, and there's his ass going over this other side. I mean, we're 20 feet across the flat.
Yeah.
Never saw him.
Good one.
Oh, looked big.
Yeah.
He was aggressive. Bed was huge. Track was huge. His trees he was rubbing was that big.
It was a big one.
Yeah, he was legit. So I'd love to go back. I'd like to go back sooner than later just to see if he's still there.
Yeah.
We went up there a following day because I hadn't been up on the top. He was. So I followed him up there, and it was just a Christmas tree forest. I mean, you couldn't see 5 feet. So we're going through these Christmas trees. There's no way. I mean, you're not hunting. You're just plowing through, right? And it was so steep that when he turned around, he was looking at my feet. It was so steep. And he sticks his head out of these Christmas trees and parts it.
It was just a bullshit plan, hoping that we'll catch him bedded or sleeping in this little cove.
He parts these Christmas trees, and there's a freaking doe on the bottom of that basin.
Yep. Looking at us. It was looking at us.
It was so thick I couldn't even raise my gun if I wanted to.
Yeah.
He stuck his head out. He says, there's a doe right there. I go, you got to be kidding. It's like, shit. There's nothing I'm going to see where I'm standing.
Yeah. That's incredible. I must have just thought your moose coming through.
Yep.
there.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
But no, we never did catch up to him.
Mm-mm.
But so that was a good one. I like thinking about that one.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you, I look back on some of my hunts. Like you were telling a story about the buck is right in front of you, and you could just see his nose. That was me last year in Maine. I had this buck right in front of me, and he'd turn his head. I could see his rack 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like 15. It was probably 2.
Yeah.
And I wheezed at him, and he started walking and grunting. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to happen. And then he just disappeared.
Yeah. Gone.
I chased him. I fell in a river. But those are the days that so, it's not all about the end result.
Right. Actually, about seeing the rack. So this buck here is a Vermont buck.
And that's a nice one, too.
That Dad got. We weren't right together, but hunting together as usual. And we got onto a buck that we knew about that morning. And I mean, big. And we ran him around till 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and we ended up getting cut off.
We got cut off on that one.
So that's fine. I mean, that happens. And middle of the morning, Dad had jumped another buck that he thought probably was bigger than
the buck I was tracking ran over a bigger buck that was laying down.
Track-wise, yeah.
Track-wise
Right.
and bed-wise.
Right. So, yeah.
And I just left it and stayed on the one. We were already set up on the one that I was on. So anyways, 3 hours later, I said, why don't we go back to the one that we ran over?
When you got cut off.
Right.
Yeah, when we got cut off.
I mean, it was the day that you're like, you could kill a buck today.
Killing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is your one, in Vermont, this is your 1 to 3 best days of the year.
Right. You ain't going home.
Let's face it, that's what you get in a season.
Right.
That's right.
So, I took the track.
And of course, he was all gassed up. I tracked for the first half of the day. So,
Right.
it was his turn to track now.
Yeah.
So I got to where he had put up the bigger buck in its bed. I'm like, yeah, okay, a few hours old. I'm trying to decipher tracks, and I'm following the older track now along. And I could hear something. I look, and I can just see horns through the brush. I can't see body. I got my gun up, safety off. I got him in the scope. I'm like, you show me brown, I'm letting him have it. I just saw horns. So he boogered off. Like, get Dad on the radio. I said, I think I know where he's going to cross. You got to get down on this edge here. He's going to be coming up through. So anyways, I waited like 15 minutes, 20 minutes for you to get around.
I'm flying. Go as fast as I can.
I mean,
Matter of fact, we had a young guy hunting with us. I went right by him.
Motoring.
So anyways, I waited up.
So
Weren't long.
he knew the woods better than I did and where he wanted me to be. But anyways, I'm screaming down this ATV trail, and I'm getting close to where he wants me. And I could smell this buck. But it's on the wrong side of the trail. The buck's supposed to be on the right side of the trail. I'm smelling him from the left side of the trail. He's already crossed. I'm late. I'm screwed. I'm going to be looking at his ass or something. So I was sneaking down the trail. The buck goes left to right. He's supposed to be going right to left.
Yeah.
So it must be a different buck. But anyways, comes right out in the trail, 60 yards away, heading into the piece that Jake's tracking.
Right.
The two are going at each other. So I looked at him and I said, I think he's good enough. So I let him have 2 in the trail, and he died up on the hill there.
Yeah.
So I called Jake on the radio. I said, I shot one down here, but it ain't the one you're tracking. This was going the wrong way.
Right.
So he says, I'm going to stay on this one.
So I don't know how he covered so much ground in so little time, but I cranked on the track thinking it's a totally different buck. And he just did this humongous loop. He crossed the trail.
It was the
went
same
way
deer.
low, and he was coming right back up.
It was the same deer.
Yeah. They can cover some ground.
He was headed back into the square, and Jake was barely even got started from where we saw him.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to take me.
But it worked.
Oh,
He was right.
It was the spot.
Yeah.
And my nose didn't lie either.
Yeah.
My nose said he was over there on the left. I said, damn it, I'm too late.
Yeah.
But I was just in time.
So that was an 8-pointer. I can't remember that weighed 168 or something, but pretty happy with that in Vermont.
Yeah.
So, and then what else we got up here? Well, you might as well tell them that story. That was quite a few years ago.
That was a Vermont buck too, you said, right?
Yeah, that was right here.
That'll make you laugh. It was opening morning. I think we had worked quite a bit and didn't have that much time. But opening morning, I snuck out back here, and in the dark, I saw my camera flash, took a picture or whatever. And this was before cell cameras. Well, we didn't have any anyways.
Right.
So anyways, insignificant. We hunted all day, and at the end of the day, we decided to check the camera. And was that buck on the camera?
Right.
We were. It was just before light. We were in the field together. Was that buck? I said, Jason, that was a deer mess, but he was long gone by the time it got light. So next morning, you actually shot a buck that day. You were tagged out.
I was tagged out.
You were tagged out. I shot one in the afternoon. We were.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
6-point.
So, anyways, next morning I'm on my own now, but it's like 0 degrees. So, just on a whim.
Of course, I was going to go sit with him, and he's like, nah, just stay home. It's just a morning stay. And I'm like, oh, I really want to go. And he's like, no, it's cold. Just stay home. All right.
It's definitely quiet. 0 degrees. It's only the second day. And I decided I was going to go down for whatever reason at the far end of this piece. Same piece of woods as this buck was in with the picture. So I didn't want to make any noise. I left my truck right at the house. And I zipped it down the road all the way around, and I just barely got there at daylight. And I could hear deer in the crusty snow. And this doe blew by me. I got ready. This buck was behind it. I just saw some horns. I opened up on it, and I went over the ridge in the brush pile, and he's piled up, and it was the same damn buck.
No kidding.
That was in the field with me
That was meant to
previous
be.
morning. And I had no idea it was that big.
That's a good one.
No idea.
Good one for any.
Could have been a 4.0 when I walked up on it.
Right.
I didn't even know.
Right. So that was probably about a mile apart, which ain't a big deal for a buck, but
Yeah, I was over a mile apart. But yeah.
You guys hunt with pumps?
yeah.
No, I'm a lever man.
Lever?
Yeah, BLR.
BLR?
Yeah. I always carried a Marlin and really felt handcuffed that it wasn't an odd 6. And when the Brownie came out with that lightweight BLR,
Got through the gun shop.
yep, I had to get it.
John Wright when I first met him, that's what he was hunting with. I think it was a 308 BLR.
Yeah.
BLR.
So
Nice looking gun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had it cut down too.
You could be fast with those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had Kevin cut down. I'll show him to you before I leave, but I had him cut down because actually I was telling him, I actually mentioned it in the podcast I did with him a little earlier. From the video, I noticed like I wasn't holding, like I would short. If you watch the video again, you'll see I was like not on the forend.
Yeah.
And I started, my buddy had one cut down, and I'm like, man, that fits good. So I had him trim a little bit. I mean, just from grabbing it, I'm like, yep, that was the ticket. I measured his and
Yeah.
did some math on it, and I nailed it.
You wanted to cut your stock down a little bit, but the bolt slides so far back.
The bolt
Made a
would
lot
be in the
sense.
nose.
Right.
So that wasn't an option to cut that back.
Right.
It comes within, I got a little bit of a big nose, but it ain't that huge. It comes within
You won't get scoped in the eye, you get scoped in the nose.
Exactly.
that bolt when you jack it, it's within a quarter inch.
Actually, I shot another buck right here with that gun brand new. It was a shitty, rainy, snowy, nasty day.
Yeah, that was another one we were attacked.
So what we're using a 30-30 iron sight.
We had a 30-30 with iron sights, and then we had one scope gun.
We were tracking
and
the
we'd
buck.
switch back and forth if one was going to be taking a stand and someone was taking a swing.
Right. So I was taking a swing, and I happened to have the scoped gun.
Well, we were, they came out on top of the hill. He was with a doe, and they split up.
Right.
And we were going to see it through, and I said, why don't you go out in that field just in case? You better go out and cover that field. There's no need of both of us going. I didn't go 100 yards, and that buck was flying across that field with him standing on top of it.
Dad gave me a double hoot, and I was ready, and he come across the field, and I let him have it, and I was like, boy, Dad, that gun's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's the first buck, that gun. But I had that cut down, and it did hurt the accuracy.
Yeah.
Because I can't pull off anything tighter than 5 inches at 100 yards with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And it was pretty good prior.
Oh, yeah, it was better prior. So there is a sacrifice to it.
Right.
Well, I think it depends on the gun, too, because, like, I had mine cut, and...
Oh, for sure.
But, I mean, you're also talking a couple inches. I don't know what you cut off that one, but...
I think
I think
18 and a half.
A lot of it depends on the crown and all this other stuff. But
Yep.
you guys see the new Woodman, the 20-inch? Have you seen that yet?
Yep.
What do you think?
I think it looks sweet.
Should have brought mine.
You should have.
I didn't even think of it. I was going to Whirlwind this morning. I picked that up this morning and went and saw Kevin. So
No, muzzle is a whole nother subject, but how many feet per second is that doing now?
So when we shot it at my house, Tim Baldock, Mark Woodman, and a bunch of guys from Northwoods, Brook, they all came. We did some filming. We were shooting N110 40 grains by weight with a 225 and 250. Both of them were doing over 2,400 feet per second.
Wow.
And the 225 was like in the upper range.
Yeah.
2430, 2426. I'm going to mess around with a little bit more. I don't know if it's 39 and a half. I don't know if it's going to be 40 grains by weight, but I'm actually hopefully this week going to go down and see Mark and get some bullets. I've already loaded up a bunch of the N110s so I can mess around with it. So we shot N122 and that performed good, but it was real fine powder. And we were getting a little bit of powder loss out of the breech.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So like if your cap's not on there, you might lose powder. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to deal with. But the N110 was, and it's less volume. And it seemed, and this might have just been, like a placebo because it wasn't as loud, right? It didn't make the boom that it felt like the other powder made.
Sure.
And it didn't feel like it kicked as much.
Well,
but it was spitting it out right out there.
this is important because now I'm not a gadget man I'm not really into it, but we're using those Omegas.
Yep.
And that's only shooting at like 1,400 if my numbers are right.
Yeah.
So for the way that we hunt, and we're doing more and more muzzleloader hunting. So you correct me if I'm wrong. If you figure out the math, if you had a buck run at 20 miles an hour at 100 yards, you're leading him in excess of over 6 feet.
I'm not going to do the math in my head, but for sure, like, it's a factor, and more than that is like if you're shooting at a buck that's 150 yards away, your drop must be insane.
Right.
I'm not even worried about that. I'm worried about because the way that we hunt.
Right.
Like I shot a big buck that he was tracking during muzzle season. I had 2 cracks at him.
That seems to be a theme. Poor Jake over here.
Well, geez, he ain't even 30 years old. He should be doing the
yeah.
tracking.
At least he can do. He's the bird dog.
I like tracking. I've always have, and
But that's freaking insane. If you're going to be leading, do the math. If you're going to be leading to 6 and 8 feet, you're going to, like, I write it down on the gun now.
Yeah.
And resort to it.
When my buddy Ryan, the one I was talking about earlier, when he shoots, his gun literally has the ballistics on the side, so he knows what to hold over.
Right. Well, that's what I'm doing with speed with a muzzleloader. But if I can go out and buy a muzzleloader and go from 1,400 feet per second, I don't care if you're getting 16. But if you're getting 24, you got my attention.
The only thing I will say is that is with smokeless, which you can't use in Vermont.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, because I'm going to do it, I'll tell you what Blackhorn does. I think it's going to be very similar. It's going to be 2,000 plus feet per second. Yeah. I'm confident.
Which is still a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other cool part, if you guys haven't picked up a Woodman, is the safety mechanism. Like I said, I fell in a river, and because it's all sealed, like when you open it up, you put your cap in, and it has like a pre-cocking mechanism in front of it.
Yep.
Okay.
So your regular safety, like you have in your pump, when you see that buck jump up, you snap safety off, pull the trigger. That, to me, like, forget all this other really awesome stuff, that trumps them all.
Sure.
Like, that's the deal right there. In it, you don't have, even with, I started with a Thompson Katahdin, and Ryan, my buddy, built it for me. It's got a Douglas barrel. It shoots smokeless or, Blackhorn. But you have to cock it. So that's a non-mechanical, non-muscle memory thing for me.
Yeah.
I missed a corker in New Hampshire 2-3 years ago, and I feel like I was flopping around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when it's not cocked, it's still in like that pre-cock, almost like your Marlin is, or like your and stuff falls down, snow, debris, like the gun may not go off, it may get wet, may get your powder wet. With this one, there's none of that.
Right.
Like any of the 3, you can get the 24, the 22, or the 20 in the Woodman. But yeah, I was a fan before we did this 20-inch thing. The 20-inch thing, again, was because of some data that I had researched and Ryan had told me about, and it's a home run.
Yeah.
So
it seems good.
I'm excited to hunt with it for sure.
You got my attention for sure.
If you pick one up too, they're just, I should have brought it.
Wow. I don't have to have it this year, but.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you get on the order list, it's like a 20-plus week lead time. So
yeah.
It's going to be a minute. So
right.
But then,
you'll have it.
Then you'll have it.
If you're trying to shoot a buck and you got to lead them 6 or 8 feet, there's a little more room for error.
Right. I feel like 1,400 feet per second, you're kind of lobbing them in there at them.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What are you shooting for grain?
Or 200 grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you guys, what other buck stories we got? Tell us a few more.
Well, you never told the story about the Vermont 9-pointer from last year.
Oh, that was last year. Yeah, let's hear that one.
That story isn't that elaborate, really.
No.
Just working together, though.
We were cruising roads and found we were bucking doe, kept running across the road, similar to what was happening in Maine. Parked the truck, and it was just kind of a half-assed thing. I said, just make a little swing I'll stay out here by the road. The thing, buck comes smoking across the road there, and I had to dive in the woods and look down this ravine, and I caught him just before he was crossing a brook.
No kidding.
Yeah. And it was, I don't know, it had to have been over 100 yards.
Oh, yeah.
It was This is almost as straight down as you could get.
Right, you're shooting down on the fact.
Yeah, and he was navigating and getting across the river there, and I was able to get him. And that was that picture that Jake had on Facebook, that buck in the river there.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But you guys run scopes?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're scope guys. I need glasses. I tried contacts. I can't make them work for me.
I can't hit a bull without a scope.
Yeah, the jury's out for me. I'm gonna play around with my peep a little bit more. I bought this 22 this year, Pomp. I was gonna put a peep on, and I get so busy it never happened. But
right.
I think I got a Trigicon I'm gonna put on, and then I have a couple other low power.
Right.
Scopes.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been a scope guy.
Yeah.
We take that side hill there. We run a cable down that side hill that we shoot into with one of Brad Willie's targets there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is
That'd
very
be cool.
cool.
You guys got the perfect spot for it right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I looked at that and I'm like, you could just put a target on a piece of plywood and send it, and it ain't the same. You should have the deer. I mean, that way you can see the outline of the deer.
Yeah, it's more fun.
Right.
Yeah.
It's worth buying up.
I want to do more of that. I mean, I was just talking about it in a previous podcast. All the time and energy and effort that we put into this sport.
Right.
Even like me, I mean, part of the reason I did carnivore and stuff is I was a pant load last year or the year before, whatever that was, last year too.
Yeah.
And I did carnivore. I've been working out. Like, this is all part of it. You know?
Sure.
Nutrition, physical fitness, your gun prep, shooting.
Right.
And how many deer do we shoot that are running?
Well,
A lot.
it opens up a whole other thing with the coyote hunting and running dogs, or for the rabbit hunters. If you got a guy that just only hunts weekends and he gets only one opportunity, like, the last time that he was in a situation where he could hear a deer running through the woods and he got an opportunity was 12 months ago, and it's never happened again.
Right.
You just can't compare the practice that you get, like running coyotes with dogs or even running rabbits.
Right.
Just
Just anything, pulling your gun up and
because you
shooting.
could have that situation 3 times in one day.
Right.
Yep.
And that's all practice. And not only the practice of the shooting, it might sound foolish, but the regiment of parking your truck and getting your stuff together and not forgetting things. If when we run coyotes through the winter, I mean, if you were able to do that every weekend, how many times you're piling out of your truck with your stuff?
Mm-hmm.
It's a practice thing. Versus if you're someone that only goes hunting 3 weekends a year or whatever, it's having your stuff together. It's all practice.
Right.
Yep.
But I mean, game trails are game trails. I mean, deer, coyotes, they all use the same trail. So you're looking at your GPS, you're seeing the contour lines. I mean, you're putting together how they're running those. Well, deer are doing the same thing when you're pushing them or tracking them.
It's all related.
Right. So it's just a leg up. It's just practice.
Yeah, we talk a lot in the podcast about like loggers. They spend so much time in that element that they're picking up things they can't even tell you they're picking up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like you two working together, double teaming, and there's things that you're doing and things that he's doing that are really combining to make a really special, talent, if you will.
Right.
'Cause there's 2 people. Like I double teamed one, my buddy Mark and I feel like we work really well together too. It's just organic, like when we're going, it's like, and his mind's thinking a little bit different than mine. And he's bringing up points. Like we jumped one and he goes, "You smell him?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's already up." He's like, "Remember last time when we got close, we could smell him. It's because he's already left. What we're smelling is he left.
You're too late."
And I'm like, "Shit, you're right." And then we kind of picked up on a few. Man, we came close to killing that one. But
I mean, there's so many benefits to it. I mean, one could be hunting the track, one's looking for the deer. That's
and it's a shit ton of fun.
Oh yeah,
because you have somebody else to enjoy the moment with.
Right. Well, how many times you shoot a buck and who's the first person you call?
My dad.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So now he's with you.
Yeah.
So it is.
And in my circumstance, I've been pretty lucky where my dad's close.
Yeah.
But he's never been that close. That's like, I dream of that really.
Right. And it helps on the drag.
I mean, it works out.
Carries your gun, right? You pull the deer.
Actually, I think, I pull them all.
Like, I don't know if we talked about it before. If you're following a big doe, well, in Vermont especially, there's a lot of bucks with some nice headgear that do not have a very big track.
Glad you brought that up.
There's a ton of
That's
them.
probably what I learned the most last year.
Especially last year. Holy smokes. But anyways, if we're tracking a buck, it was with the big doe. Him and I are running together, and they separate. We don't even pause.
Right.
I mean, it's not even an inconvenience. He takes one, and I take the other one. And we could be 300 yards apart and come back together.
And how many times has he done that? You think he's on the doe, and he's like, Dad, I'm actually on the buck.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's got to be.
I don't even care which one I'm on.
Right. Right.
Right.
It's
I mean,
just efficient.
Talking about big tracks, we took this track last year that we're like, this should be a decent one, and set in the thick cedars. You're gonna blow it out of there. I mean, you just ain't shooting them in this thick cedar swamp. So I took a swing on it.
Is this Maine?
No, Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah, another Vermont.
Good track. Like, I bet a lot of money.
I mean, stride, had width. I mean, it had it all.
It had it all.
Right. So I went around this swamp thinking it's coming out on the other side, and he went in, and I don't know if she winded you or what happened, but I just got to the other side, and there's this humongous doe running out of there. And I'm like, he's going to be right behind her. That was it. It was just a big doe.
Yep.
No horns. I'm like,
Fortunately, we only wasted about 90 minutes on that.
I'm like, Dad, you ain't going to believe this.
In my video last year, I cut this buck. I'm like, the buck track. I'm like, that's dragging his feet with two smaller deer. I'm like, this is that buck I've been looking for. And I didn't go too far, luckily, you guys. And I put it out of its bed. And I did a bunch of investigating and finally determined it was a big doe. I ended up seeing her 2 more times. She's like 170 pounds.
Yeah, sure.
Giant doe.
Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a war in my head this year. I'm looking at track like, yeah, I think that's a buck. You know, I'm a horn guy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, is it great to shoot 200? Definitely, but horns get me excited.
Right.
So
I'm dreaming of when those two come together.
Right. You know. So it's gonna be difficult for me this year because I mean,
well, the wisdom in not following them smaller tracks obviously is that when they get into other deer,
right.
That's what makes it tough.
Right.
That's why I always look for those what I call 1%ers. Because once you get on them, it's like, yep, there he is. Like the one that I killed 3 years ago, that snowed in track. I mean, I couldn't have killed him if he wasn't what he was.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, he had just such a distinctive track that it was easy to distinguish between the others.
Right.
So I think you have more of that luxury in Maine than you do in Vermont.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Well, I'll tell you, I think a lot of deer get saved because they have small feet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
On the contrary, I think bucks like the one I killed in New Hampshire this year, if you guys are on that track with me, I'd have been like, Jake, what do you think? You'd have been like 180 plus all.
Sure. Yep.
And he was 168.
Right.
I mean, doing big buck stuff, like going up to these giant signposts,
Right.
smashing them up, checking on does, but not really messing with them. And this is prime rut. And he was living in this shithole valley, alder swamp, and he'd go make swings, do his night walk, look for the girlfriend, didn't find her, go right back down there. I'm like, this is a mature.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like he might have been a mature deer that just didn't have it.
Yep.
Right.
Didn't have it.
Right.
Yep.
He had enough for me. I had to friggin' that was so fun. That was a good hunt.
Right. I mean, this one here only weighed 152 or 155.
Yeah.
But it had it all: feet, headgear,
Rack.
No weight.
And we're not like those other guys. I mean, they're elite where they're shooting over 200 pounders all the time. I mean, it's just not us.
Right.
So if it's over 180, we're delighted.
I mean, we're definitely been tied to Vermont in the last 3-4 years. I mean, I'm having babies and with the farming. I mean, luckily I got a great wife that's understanding, and I can get away, go to Maine for a week or go to New Hampshire for a week.
Yeah.
But to go take weeks on end or just keep going.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I make sure to tell people, like when I'm at hunt stock and things like that, and these young men will come up to me like, hey,
right,
nice bucks, how do you do it? And I said, well, listen, first thing I want you to understand is that, even from my 20s and 30s, and some of these young guys that are hunting months and weeks on end, they really need to pinch themselves because they're living the dream.
Right.
When I was that age, I was trying to build some wealth and buy a house and start a family. I was working every waking moment. We would literally take like 4 days.
Right.
And that was it. Weekends and 4 days, right up until probably my mid-30s.
Yep.
It wasn't until my mid-30s that I finally was established enough where I could say, you know what, no. Like if I worked for an employer and they didn't want to give me my 2-3 weeks off to go deer hunting,
right.
All right, well, this isn't working out then.
Right.
I go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because I established myself.
Right.
So these people that are able to do it, but that's a factor, right?
Oh,
it's huge. These guys they're great hunters. I'm not taking anything away from it, but when you have 40 days plus, you're probably going to bump into one.
Right. It should happen.
It's going to happen.
Right.
So, again, they're still really, really good hunters. I just think it's worth saying so that you're not discouraging some of these younger hunters that get, a weekend. When you get a weekend or a week, shoot what makes your heart pitter patter. And if that's a spike horn,
absolutely
shoot it. Be proud of it. Post it on Facebook. Bring it home. Enjoy the organic protein.
Right.
And every year, it's all about what makes you happy. It's not necessarily got to be the biggest buck in the woods.
I mean, we're talking about the perfect days only happen, 3-4 times a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to be on a weekend all the time.
And I'd rather shoot a small buck or a buck that I am happy with shooting on my terms.
Sure.
The way I want to do it, which is tracking for me.
Right.
Then, I passed up last year. Brooke and I are driving down the road. There's a 140-inch, 200-pounder standing in a field. I could have jumped out and shot it.
Right.
Didn't even think about it.
Right.
I have deer by my house. Like I live kind of like this, rural, and it's just not big enough for me. It's not what I want. There's big bucks running around. It's just not my deal.
Well, actually, so I'm hunting behind the house here, morning stand, and I knew there was a couple of good bucks in the area, and I'm sitting there and I can see the house from the tree stand, and I happen to look down this way, and right here in the garden, there's this buck that I've been hunting.
Come on.
It's a 140-inch plus deer.
Oh, it's over.
I mean, I'll show you a picture later.
Friggin' monster.
And he's standing in this garden, and I'm like, you could thread a bullet through there, but I got the cows here, we got the house here. I mean, is that how you want to shoot your deer? Not really.
Mom doing dishes at the sink. Is she gonna be real impressed with you?
So I ended up climbing down from the tree stand. I went down through the side there, and I was hoping to catch him down on the flat, and I never did catch up to him. And that was actually the last time I ever saw that buck.
No kidding.
He was gone ever since.
Huh.
That buck was in this garden, and we have one camera 2 squares away, and it crossed that camera.
90 minutes later, yeah.
90 minutes later. Like you would think at 8:30 in the morning, if he crossed that town road, he'd be sleeping in that square.
Right.
No.
They will put some miles on.
He flew through that square, and we happened to get him on one camera. It's only one camera, even out that whole side.
Just bullshit luck.
And that was goodbye, because he didn't come back. And he didn't come back next year either, or the year after.
I mean, I know people definitely shit on cameras. I mean, there's a lot of opinions on that. But I feel like you learn so much. I would have been hunting that buck for days thinking he's still here. He's fucking gone.
No, and I think they definitely have their point. I like them for like, one, it's fun, right? It's fun to kind of do like, what's in that area?
Right.
You get a big picture of a buck. It's exciting.
Right. Helps you get out of bed.
What I don't love is this new era of like, let's say there's a big buck on that ridge right there.
Yeah.
Again, I wish you guys could see this. We're like looking at a beautiful ridge. Guys will go up there and put 30 cameras.
Yeah.
And that deer takes up shit. About it.
Sure.
To me, that's just like, it's kind of abusing the technology a little bit. Again, down where you used to live and hooks it, like there's those small pieces. I get it, right?
Right.
I just don't want to do it.
Right.
I want to.
Right.
I like the challenge and the ignorance of the ignorance is bliss. Like when I pick up a buck track, I don't want to know what he's got on his head.
Sure.
Because it's going to ruin it for me. Because what if he's not the one that I'm after, and you kind of, it changes the way you hunt, and it changes your perception of the way you hunt. So.
And probably what point of life you're in. I mean, right now I got a 4-year-old that loves looking at cameras, pictures. So, when it's the evening time and I'm like, oh, Emily, look what we just got.
And it's getting them excited about it. Like,
right.
I've got a nephew that has just displayed, he's kind of getting back into hunting. He was with me last year up when I shot that deer. And he asked for Christmas, he wanted some cameras. So I bought him 4 cameras.
Right.
I'm going to put him out with him. I'm going to, he wants to hunt a spot that's that I grew up cutting my teeth in, and I'll go flop around up there with him. And so I totally get all that. Like,
right.
And I also understand the guy that does what he's doing with the 20. I just personally, it's not for me.
Yeah, ain't for you.
And I just want people to know that you don't have to do. It's not the only way to do it. It's like you turn on a Midwest hunt. I'd love to go to the Midwest and hunt out of a tree stand and do that whole food plot thing. And that, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just, it's not the only way.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
there's another
sure.
way.
Another thing I'd add to that is cameras can cost you bucks.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's not all a plus.
Right.
Now, whether you're hunting a deer that's nocturnal,
Yeah.
and you just refuse to give up, but he's nocturnal, or in our case, we'll put a couple of cameras up in a piece. We haven't seen anything on it in 6 weeks.
Right.
Well, guess what? There's 2 zonkers that have been living in there, and they just didn't go across your camera, and we scratched that off.
I mean,
That's cost us.
I learned
lots
a
of
lot
times.
that coyote hunting. You run a bait pile or something, and you put a camera on it, and you can track when the coyotes are there and whatnot, and you're like, oh, it's dead. Well, it turns out they're there. I mean, you can't rely on that camera 100%
Right.
to relay the information to you. You get your ass there, and you need to put the work in.
And I tend to get that way. Like when I did run cameras for a little bit, it's like, I'd put a camera on a ridge, and I'd be like, I haven't gotten a picture. I'm not hunting there.
Right.
You can
And
do
then
that on a food plot.
2
You
days
put a
later-
camera in a food plot and say, there's no bucks coming to this food plot.
Right.
Oh, yeah?
Right.
Yeah. Two days later, guy shoots one 2:30 on the mountain I was hunting. I was like, son of a. I wasn't hunting up there. Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
Idiot.
So as they're outlawing cameras, they don't talk about the bucks that it's saving, because it is working adversely.
Right.
And you think you got intel, and it's
The other part for me is like, as people put more and more of them, I go to the woods for tranquility, and I don't really want my picture taken. You know what I mean? I want to be able to take a piss around the corner and not have to go like, all right, is there...
Right.
And it's not bad in the North Country where we hunt, and obviously there's not a lot of cell service, but
Right.
down by me, there's some sections.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I bet I've seen 10 cameras where I just went through it. You know, out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But there's, that particular area had a couple of good bucks in it that year, so who knows?
Right.
So you guys, how long you been doing the cow thing?
long time,
Yeah.
Oh.
It's got to be awesome.
over 20 years.
Do you enjoy it, or is it like has it lost its luster?
We would rather farm full-time than do carpentry,
For sure.
but the volume of animals that you'd have to live on,
Mm-hmm.
Not one income, but 2 incomes. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, just put in perspective, if he needed to make 80 grand a year and I needed to make 80 grand a year, which used to sound like a lot, but it isn't even squat now. If we were making $1,000 per animal,
Right.
we're going to run 160 head of feeders. Are you going to buy these feeders? Are you going to run a cow-calf operations? You're going to run 160 mama cows and 160. You know how big you'd have to be?
Yeah, it's quite the operation.
Right. So it's tough. But, I mean, there's definitely more of a market today on small farms because there's such a distrust of the grocery store.
Oh, for sure.
Distrust of government and their food. This thing with Boar's Head.
Right.
Yep.
And
you're preaching to the choir when it comes to that. I mean, that's why, I know you guys. I know other people, but I like you. And I was like, you know what?
Right.
I'm doing this carnivore thing. I'm going to order a cow. And,
Right.
and it's nice to know where your meat comes from. I live, again, in a similar setting. And my wife and I have like this, we were just there last night. We go up, we buy cheese and unpasteurized milk
Right.
and yogurt. Every night I'm on carnivore, but I do eat some dairy.
Sure.
Mark Woodman's going to yell at me for this. He told me to give up the dairy. I haven't done it yet. But I will make a yogurt I put some fruit, a little bit of fruit and a little bit of a sugar-free whipped cream on top. It's like my dessert. I have it. I was eating it every night. Now I'm like, I've taken it down to 3. Mark, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But it's so good, and it's so good for you. And my gut health after I eat stuff, eat that clean.
Right. You must be feeling way better.
It's unbelievable.
Right.
I had to go gluten-free.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it started bothering my guts. Well, geez, my nasal got better during the night. I had this, like, scalp psoriasis. It all went away. I had, like, 4 or 5 ailments that went away just because I cut out gluten. And I don't even think it's the wheat that was getting me. It's the poison they use to grow the wheat is what I think it was.
That's a lot of it.
Because you talk to all these people who go out to Europe, vacation for 2 weeks, and they start feeling great.
Right. Come back home. Feel sick.
Start feeling like crap again.
Yeah, there's a list, you can Google it, of the foods that are allowed in the United States and are outlawed in other countries, and it's like
Yeah.
the list just is a country mile long.
Yeah. So
we enjoy doing the farm.
right. And
I mean, that's what we like.
you get spend more time with the family farming. If I'm doing carpentry, it's just Monday through Friday. It's to work. You get home, the kids need a shower, eat dinner, go to bed, and it's done.
Yeah.
At least with the farming, hey, we're spreading shit today. Jump on the tractor, or we're moving
And it
cows.
connects them to everything. They understand where their food's coming from.
Right.
Oh, they love it.
You know, they know that cow was alive yesterday and today it's on the dinner plate.
Right. So we got pigs as well. So I'm feeding the pigs, and I got some jakes that come in and eat the grain that's left over. And Emily, she goes, "Well, those are my friend turkeys." And I'm like, "Oh, okay," And she goes, "Well, come fall turkey season, we're going to shoot one." And I'm like, when it, you just called them your friend, but now you're telling me to shoot them. I mean, she understands that's your food.
Yeah.
It's what you live off. It's healthy. It's organic. It's there. It's in season.
And Emily's the 4-year-old?
Yeah, she's the 4-year-old.
When's her birthday?
December 15th.
Similar. Catalina, my daughter's December 2nd.
Oh, really?
She's 4. And I asked because it's like similar conversation I had with her. Yeah, my friend came and shot a bear right in my backyard. I got a neighbor that's giving him some fiddles.
Yeah.
I mean, literally this morning, I had my 308 out and my bar right on the shoulder of one. I'm like looking at the clock. I'm like, I got a meeting at 7 a.m. I can't shoot it right now, but it's a problem.
Right.
But anyway,
but it's good to get your kids involved and understand that.
Yeah. For sure.
It's not just go down to the grocery store and buy processed foods.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good. I hope you guys do well with it. I hope you guys continue to do it. And
I don't see.
Can make a few bucks.
I mean, so we're also at Libby's Meat Market in Lyndonville, and that's working out really good. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah, the locals really want the local people for the.
Yeah, I thought the market me towards out-of-staters, going up to Burke Mountain, and they said it's not. It says the locals are coming every week.
No kidding. That's good.
Which I was really surprised with that.
Yeah. Well, I think people that choose to live. So this is considered the Northeast Kingdom, right?
Yep.
Are we right in it? Or are we in the fringes? Or
right in the middle of it?
Right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
I think people that choose to live here have that sort of mentality of that connection.
Right.
Wanting to know. My wife is so about it, and I'm very grateful that she is because it makes it easy. Imagine if your wife wasn't into it and she wants to eat.
Oh boy,
boar's head.
It'd be difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, the wives have a lot to do with everything. If it's the farming or the hunting and work.
Oh, we can't. Behind every great man's an even better woman.
Right.
And the part that I'm grateful for is not only does my wife let me do what I love, I make sure to thank her in all the videos because I genuinely appreciate it. But she is so genuinely excited for me. Like, she doesn't want to hunt. And I think at the end of the day, she could give a shit less, but she knows how much I love it.
Right.
She must see you happy.
Yeah.
And she's just like, and Adelina, my daughter's loving it too. So it's.
Oh, Mackenzie's probably the second phone call I make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Sometimes I'll do like your dad, though, when he says it was a 6-pointer.
Yeah.
I'll call my wife and be like, I got a little one today, and it's a big rack buck.
Sure.
You said it was little. I love to do that to my dad as well.
Yeah.
Dad, don't come down here. It's just a spike horn. Well, I know you didn't shoot a spike horn. Shot the wrong.
Yeah, right. Satellite buck.
I have done that, though. So now he does believe me sometimes because it happens. But so any other big buck stories you want to tell? Or you guys got anything, any tracking stories or any other adventures you can think of? I'm sure you got more in there. It's just hard to remember them all.
I guess the only point that I'd make is early in, and this happens with a lot of guys, early in my hunting career, I probably started when I was 6 years old. In New Hampshire, the deer herd was freaking horrible. This is before they had any bucks only law or anything. I mean, you wouldn't see a deer all year. In Vermont, it was crazy. So we used to go to Vermont to bow hunt. So what we did in central New Hampshire was all deer drives with a group. So it's a totally different type of hunting. It was the camaraderie. My dad's one of 4 brothers. So we always got together putting on deer drives. And where we hunted, you could put on 5 to 7 drives a day and not put on the same drive for 3 days. So it was a pretty cool piece. But it's totally different than tracking bucks, obviously. The downside of that is you were part of a group and you were kind of obligated to stay into that group. You didn't want to be the one to say, hey, I'm going up north to go track bucks. See you later, guys, because you were, you were part of the group. Or if they had busted their butt and had pushed a buck out to you and you shot it, you kind of had an obligation to finish out the season with them, right? So anyways, that was the early part of my hunting career, right? I'm into my mid-20s. So you had the camaraderie, and the other plus side of it is you got to learn how to shoot moving targets.
Right.
I mean, you weren't sitting in you had about 2 seconds.
Yeah, when I was younger, my dad had a couple. He was never really big into deer driving. Like, he'd be like, all right, we're going to go because we got a couple buddies that want to do it. And I used to love it because it was like the excitement of you'd meet, you go, and you make the plan. You're having coffee and donuts. And, all right, Trav, you're going to be a standard today.
Right,
and,
right. Or flip a coin, who gets what stand.
Right.
Right. Definitely a fun
and again,
atmosphere.
That's one of those hunting practices, again, that, like, if you talk to the 10 people, somebody like, oh, it's this, it's that. But if you actually did it and you were in it, you'd realize that, number one, it's not as easy as it sounds. Most of the time you screw it up and, the stander wasn't in the right spot. The driver went too soon.
Right. There's a lot of strategizing.
Yeah.
It was before GPSs. It was all compass.
Yeah.
To come out parallel and on time is a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was pretty regimented.
Well, I could tell the story about that big 4-pointer I shot here.
Oh.
So it's a 4-pointer that we hunted for 3 years. There's always a 4-pointer, and it weighing 187.
No kidding, that's a big 4-pointer.
Right. I should have got it aged. I never did. I believe it was over 5.5. Was what I know of.
Yeah.
So he was in the back field here. It was bow season, October, and he was in this piece. So we're going to put this push on. So there's a brook. I don't know, standing on the brook at the crossing. Dad goes through. Here he comes, trotting right to me. I'm with my bow, 40 yards. And I let him have it. He ducked the arrow, and he was gone. And there goes the deer drive. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a dead deer. I mean,
right.
And then it was the following year.
So the following year, hadn't shot a buck. I was with my muzzleloader, and we were doing another drive, and I could hear deer going in the drive.
So the wrong way.
Yeah, going the wrong way. So I gotta get around the corner. So I'm boogieing down around the corner, and I see does, and there's the 4-pointer again, and they take off running, and I shot again with my muzzleloader and never touched them. So now it's 2 years, 2 opportunities. This buck,
It's got 9 lives.
yeah, this buck I'm after, but it's not faded to me. But
Plenty of pictures.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hunting this deer. So finally out back here, he had called me. It was late, like 8:30 or.
I think you shot at 8:20, and I talked to you at like 8.
Yeah, you're
Like, I'm going to stay in later. I'm like, what the heck are you staying in late? It's almost 8 o'clock.
just a cold, crunchy morning.
This is over.
Yeah. Well, here he comes. So I'm with my rifle, and he's coming up through the woods, and I shot him, and he died, 50 yards in front of me. But it was a pretty special moment to have a 3-year relationship with a deer and finally be able to get him. And there was a lot of other guys that knew about him and were hunting him as well.
Few had shot at him.
Yeah, a few had shot at him. Yeah, buck with 9 lives.
That's something I hear a lot on other podcasts. These guys that, like, target a buck, have so much history with them,
Right.
and then finally get them. I've never done that. So I've done it with tracking, where I've picked up a tracked him for 2 weeks, finally kill him.
Right.
But I can't imagine what it must be like to have 3-4 years of history with a deer and finally,
Right. Finally get him. But I think I also probably lost some opportunities. I got hung up on him.
Yeah.
You could have shot maybe a different buck earlier in the year and hunted another state.
Yeah.
But, I was having kids at home. I was fine hunting at home in Vermont.
No.
So it worked out anyways. But
there's a couple themes I'm hearing here, and one of them is outback.
Yeah.
Right, which is always that I'm gonna go hunt outback. Like, there's something to that, and I think it's special to be able to hunt, right in your back 40.
Right.
And you might shoot something that you wouldn't maybe, like, oh, well, I'm going to Maine. And,
right.
And you guys going back to Maine this year?
Yep. Yes.
Sweet.
I mean, we're definitely blessed that I can go take a bow stand right there.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, we shoot coyotes on that tree line.
Perfect.
Yeah,
and I don't bow hunt as much as I used to because I only have so much time. But if I had time,
right.
like, I might get out of work and be like, all right, I'm going to go run up and sit and stand for a couple hours.
Right.
Tell me this weather doesn't got you thinking about it.
Right, of course.
Nice and chilly up here.
So it is nice to have that in your backyard. I'm in Sheffield. I mean, I got the state forest right on my backside. I mean, it's it's just easy to go hunting.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot when you go take a week off to New Hampshire or Maine.
Yeah.
It's a lot on the family.
Well, and it's tough. It's super tough.
Right.
Again, back to the whole time thing. Like,
Right.
It's like my wife when I come home, she's like, got that look. Yeah.
You know it.
I love you, babe.
Yeah.
Well, when we leave, the girls have to take care of about 60 head.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. What do you guys do a week?
Yeah, Sunday,
yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So we were going to New Hampshire and then ended up, I don't know why we switched it. We just wanted to change and went to Maine.
Yeah.
Happy we did. I mean,
Yeah, Maine's good.
Because of all those podcasts and videos, all these guys in Maine, for that, maybe we're missing out on something.
must be.
And it's good. But it's good. There's a lot of country too, so it's not like it's going to get crowded anytime soon.
Right. I mean, that's the other thing is the lack of poster signs. You see something, you want to go hunt that mountain, you can just go hunt it.
Yeah.
You know, then,
I mean, that is the bad side about hunting Vermont. It's getting harder and harder for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As far as tracking bucks, it isn't too long before there's somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's I feel like New Hampshire were losing in the ballot box too on that sort of thing. And obviously, you guys had a long, hard fought battle this year, and that's not ending anytime soon.
No, it's not.
Part of this podcast is to bring awareness to stuff like that. You've
Right.
got to get involved. You've got to have a voice and
Vote this November.
vote,
Pay attention.
vote. So cool. Well, listen, guys, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time. And you guys had the barn to fix, and
Well, how can we say no when you said you drive to our doorstep?
yeah, I said, I'm
Yeah,
coming to you.
Yeah.
I'm going by. I'm making it happen. I've been trying to make this happen for a while. So
Right. Well, hopefully you get together after deer season and we got some more stories.
cool. Well, I'll be coming up to pick up the cow at some point.
That's
so
right.
well,
That'll be after
maybe-
deer season.
We'll do another one then with all our success stories from this hunting season.
That'd be nice.
Well, listen, I appreciate it again, guys, and
Yep.
thanks for joining us on another episode
Thank
of
you.
Northwoods
Yep,
White.
thanks for having us.
You bet. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
No one can save you. You better run.